Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, Uriel, Israel. Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, Uriel, Israel. Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, Uriel, Israel. I'm a servant to the highest when my friends is on. I ain't
Calm. Right? First and foremost, I would like to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Right? It is your host, Uriel Israel. We're back with another episode, but episode, another lesson. The title of this lesson is The Life of Paul. Right? Now we have right with us the mighty brother, Mayo. What's going on, King?
Shalom, King God, praise to the Most High. How you feeling, Lord?
Feeling pretty good through the spirit. I just kind of want to share some light on things because a lot of people like to read Paul letters and a lot of things, but they don't really understand who he is and what he stood for. Right. So today, through the spirit and power of the Most High, we're going to dive into the life of Paul. Right now, this video could have easily been a 2-hour video, but we ain't gonna do that through the spirit, hopefully. But we know that Israel got a short attention span. But yeah, so the lesson today is the life of Paul, part one. Right? So first, let's get in this thing. Let's get in here with the spirit and power of the Most High. Share my screen for a second. And click it. All right. 1 second. I think y'all should be able to see it. Let me see if y'all can see my screen right quick. Let me just go ahead and see if y'all can see it. Let me see if y'all can see it. All right. Let's see if y'all can see it. I don't think y'all can see it yet. Yeah, y'all can't see my screen yet. So it's like, yeah, give me 1 second. Yeah, y'all can't see my screen yet. Like, yeah, give me 1 second. Okay, so I can't pull it up right now. I'm gonna have to do it for the next one. So we're gonna just get it. We're gonna get it going. I'm not gonna be able to pull up the precepts yet. So you can just read it. So let's go to the book, right? Because we got to understand is we have to understand, how the Bible is read, right? You can't read the Bible like these religions and things like that. You can't read the Bible. You have to read it a certain way, right? So let's get it. Let's get the book of Psalms, right? Chapter 119 and 104. Let's get that.
Get the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 10. You said 104?
Come.
104. It reads, through thy precepts I get understanding.
What the Lord say?
Through thy precepts I get understanding.
Okay.
Therefore I hate every false way.
So if you're not going into the precepts, everything goes is vain, right? Read that again.
It's the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 104. Through thy precepts I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false way.
Right. So anything goes is vain and false, right? You don't want to, if you're not going through the precepts, whatever you're doing is just not it, because that's how you actually understand the Bible. It's like a puzzle, right? It's like a puzzle that you have to put together through the precepts, right? Let's keep going. Get Isaiah 28 and 10.
Come. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 28, verse 9 and 10. And it reads, whom shall he teach knowledge, or whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little.
So again, you have to go precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. Right? That's actually how you understand the Bible. But right, we're gonna see how Yahweh Shai, how he taught, right? Because did he do that? Did he take a precept and broke it down and that was it? Did he read the whole chapter when he taught, or did he go through the precepts as it is written? Right? Let's get the book of Luke, chapter 4, and verse 14.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 4, starting at verse 14, and it reads, and Yahweh Shai returned into the power of the Spirit into Galilee, and there went out a fame of him through all the region round about. He taught in the synagogues, being glorified of all. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogues on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found a place where it was written.
Keep reading.
The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recover of sight to the blind, and to set at liberty them that are bruised.
So right now you have Yahweh Shai. He's teaching in the synagogues, right? And he have Isaiah. He have the book of Isaiah, right? But watch this though. He's quoting Isaiah, right? Keep reading.
Verse 19, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord, and he closed the book, and he gave it again.
He closed the book. He quoted Isaiah and closed the book. He quoted a precept and closed the book. That's exactly what he did. Right? Read that one more time.
Verse 20. And he closed the book.
Mm-hmm.
He gave it again to the minister and sat down. And the eyes of all them that were in the synagogues were fastened on him.
They was like, whoa, we quoted a precept and closed it? Whoa. So that's how you read the Bible. Right? It's really that simple. Go through the precepts. You got to have multiple accounts. Right? You got to line up. Right? So through like precepts, that's how we're going to get understanding. Right? So now we're going to get into the lesson, the life of Paul. Right? So now that we know we have to go through the precepts, that's what we're going to do today with Paul. We're going to put through the Spirit and power of the Most High, we're going to put all of these puzzles together to get a message, to get a clear understanding of who is Paul and what he stood for. Right? So once you know these things, then you know you wouldn't be confused or you wouldn't get, influenced by false doctrines. Right? So who is Paul, right? So now Paul, right, his Hebrew name is Saul, right? So you may also know him as Saul when you read Acts. When you read the book of Acts, you will know Paul also as Saul. Saul is his Hebrew name, right? So Paul, he was an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin, right? So he wasn't a Roman. And we're going to cut all those things up. Oh, he was a Roman. We're going to prove it through the precepts. Don't worry, Israel. Well, he was an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. All right? So let's get that. Let's get the book. I want to get Romans 11:1. Right?
It's the book of Romans, chapter 11, verse 1, and it reads, I say then, have God cast away his people? God forbid, for I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham of the tribe of Benjamin.
God. So again, Paul is an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. Right? He's not a Roman. He's not a heathen Gentile. He's a Israelite, a blood descendant from a man named Benjamin. All right? He's a Israelite. Okay? Let's get another one. 2 Corinthians 11:22.
It's the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 11 and 22, and it reads, Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the seed of Abraham? So am I.
So you hear that? Is they Hebrews? So am I. He's a Hebrew Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. And I had to say it like that because you have these heathens that try to pick up our book and they like to I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but they try to slither away the truth. So we gotta cut the head off. We have to go through the precepts so we can cut up all of these false doctrines, right? So let's get another one. Those are two accounts already that we went to in the scriptures, proving that Paul was an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin, right? Let's get another one. Let's get Philippians 3:5.
It's the book of Philippians, chapter 3, verse 5, and it reads, Circumcised the 8th day of the stock of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, and Hebrew of the Hebrews, as touching the law of Pharisee.
Okay, you see that? So again, Paul was a Israelite, right? From the tribe of Benjamin, right? Let me get, I want to get something real quick. All right. So what we learned so far is that Paul is an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. Also, he was a Pharisee, right? But we're going to touch on the Pharisee part in a minute through the Spirit and power of the Most High. But so far, what we're learning right now is that Paul was an Israelite for the tribe of Benjamin, and also he's a Pharisee, right? So that's what we learned so far with him. So now let's go to Acts 21 and 37, right? Let's get the book of Acts, chapter 21 and 37. Right?
Acts, chapter 21, verse 37. And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto thee? And he said, Canst thou speak Greek?
Okay, read.
And as Paul, verse 38, Are not thou that Egyptian, which before these days made us up in uproar, and led us out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers?
Okay, so read 37 one more time. Acts 21 and 37.
Acts 21 to 37. It reads, And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto thee? Whom said, Canst thou speak Greek?
Canst thou speak Greek? Right? So because he can't. Right? So you would know that he's able to speak Greek. Right? So again, what we learned so far is that Paul was an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. Right? Also, he was a Pharisee, in that he's a Jew that essentially he's an Israelite that essentially speaks Greek, right? So that's what we got. That's what we got so far, right? So like it, we got where we at. Okay, yeah. Keep reading on that. Keep reading to read 38 and 39. Go ahead.
God. Verse 38, and it reads, Art not thou that Egyptian, which before these days made us an uproar, and led us out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers? But Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew of Tarsus, a city in Sicily, Cilicia, a city of no mean city, and I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto the people.
So again, he's an Israelite that speak Greek. He's from a city called Tarsus, right? Those people in there, you had people in Tarsus that spoke Greek. All right. So again, he's a Greek speaking Israelite, right? From the city of Tarsus. All right. So that's what we got so far. So if you stick with me, if you're just coming in, if you see this video later through the Spirit power of the Most High, so far you have Paul. He's an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. He's a Pharisee. He's a Greek speaking Jew, and he's from the city of Tarsus. Right? That's what we got so far on him. All right, let's keep going through the Spirit. So let's get the book of Acts, chapter 22, verse 22.
God. So this is the book of Acts, chapter 22. And you said verse 22, right?
God.
And it reads, And they gave an audience unto this word, and then lifted up their voices and said, Away with such a fellow from the earth, for it is not fit that he should live.
Pause right there. So you got Israel, this is around the time through the Spirit that he's being persecuted or whatever. He's getting arrested. And you would know that when you read this chapter. Go ahead, King.
Verse 23. And as they cried out and cast up their clothes and threw dust into the air, the chief captain commanded him to be brought into the castle and bade that he should be examined by scourging, that he might know wherefore they cried so against him. Keep going.
Keep going. You're going to read it. Keep going.
Verse 25. As they bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned?
God, so he said, is it lawful to obtain a man that has a Roman citizenship? Not that he's a Roman, because we just read through the precepts that he's an Israelite. We know that the scriptures is not contradicting itself. So you have to use discernment when reading the precepts, when you're reading the scriptures, right? So he's not saying as in he's a Roman, a bloodline Roman. He's saying, is it lawful to be locked up? You know what I'm saying? Me having a Roman citizenship. And even when you read it in other translations, it will tell you that as well. Right? Keep reading. Read to 28.
Yeah. We stopped at verse 27, right?
Yeah, you could pick up at 27.
Verse 27, it reads, Then the chief captain came and said unto him, Tell me, art thou a Roman? He said, Yea. And the chief captain answered, With a great sum obtained I this freedom. And Paul said, But I was freeborn.
God, so that the whole point of that is to prove that he had a Roman citizenship. All right? So let's get the book. Let's get Acts 23 and verse 6.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 23, verse 6, and it reads, But when Paul perceived that the one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, he cried out in the council, Men and brethren, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. Of the hope and resurrection of the dead, I am called in question.
God, so again, Paul was a Pharisee, right? So we got multiple accounts of him being a Pharisee, right? So let's get the book. Let's see. So now what we're going to do is, I wanted to pull it up on the screen through the Spirit and power of the Most High, but I'm not able to do so right now. But a Pharisee, I got some right here. I'm just going to read it. Right, a Pharisee is a member of an ancient. It says Jewish, but we know through the Spirit power of the Most High we are the Jews. But it says a member of the ancient Jews sect. It says distinguished by strict observation of the traditional and written law, and commonly held to have pretensions to superior sanctity, right? So, in other words, right, the Pharisees, they were individuals that taught it was law, this law, that everything was law, 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 law. That was it. It was strict law, right? Keep the Sabbath, right? Wear your fringes. It was just strict. It was harsh. It was no type of leniency, no type of grace, nothing. It was just law, law, law. And what they did was they placed burdens upon themselves and on Israel. They was hypocrites, right? They was creating commandments of men. They was just they was just putting burdens, on Israel. And the Lord actually, Yahushua actually had to, get on them because they was being hypocrites, right? Telling people to do something, they didn't do it, right? Let's get the book of Matthew, chapter 23 and verse 1, right? Because let's see what Yahushua said about the Pharisees, right?
It's one of my favorite chapters too, Matthew. It's the book of Matthew, chapter 23, verse 1, and it reads like it. Then spake Yahushua unto the multitude to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do, but do not ye after their works, for they say and do not. For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with flocking. They themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their works they do for to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries and enlarge the borders of their garments.
Okay. So again, you had just kind of a summary of what they did, right? The Pharisees, they were individuals, like I said, they was very strict on the law, right? They was unreasonable. It was no love. It was law, 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 right? It wasn't. They didn't understand, what the law was made for, right? But I don't want to get too deep into the Pharisees. I think maybe I'll do a separate video on it. But they were individuals that placed, for example, they probably was, you got to read 40 chapters and they don't even do that. It was being hypocrites, right? They wasn't, it was no love there basically through the Spirit. So, and they wanted to be seen, large garments. They wanted to be seen by men. Oh, look at me. My beard is 6 feet tall. My fringes is better than yours. I'm mighty because I got on these fringes. It was no love, right? So, so let's go. Bring it out.
So like it. I wanted to touch back on Acts chapter 23, giving an understanding on who the scribes and the Pharisees was. It's like the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Just the book of Acts chapter 23. We're going to go to verse 8. It says, for the Sadducees say there was no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees confessed both. And there arose a day, and the scribes that were the Pharisees part arose and strive That was the point. Verse 8. I was trying to find the other point going into the Pharisees too. How they only was into the law. But we can stop there. If I find another precept, I can tell you.
What precept was that?
That was Acts 23:8.
So again, the Sadducees, they didn't believe in the resurrection, nor angel or spirit, right? But the Pharisees, they believed in both. So that's the difference between those two offices, right? So, through the spirit, let's get it going. All right. Okay, Con, let's get the book. Let's see where we at. So, right. So now again, we're on Paul, right? Now, what you have to understand is that Paul wasn't always a righteous apostle, right? When he was Saul, he was wicked, right? He persecuted the Israelites, right? He persecuted the Israelites. He was a Pharisee, right? So again, if through the precepts, if the Pharisees were individuals that was hypocrites and placing burdens on the people, what did you think Paul did? Well, I'm gonna say Saul, because at this time his name was Saul. You don't think he followed in those footsteps? He did, but he was actually worse because he actually persecuted them, right? Let's get the book of, let's see what I want to get right quick. The book of, I think it's, I want to get, I'm going to get this right here, right? So what we got to understand is Paul, he was a Pharisee that was taught the law. But he wasn't an individual that didn't know the law. Let's get the book of Acts, chapter 22 and verse 3. Let's get that right quick.
Said 22 and 13.
Yeah, come.
It's the book of Acts, chapter 22, and verse 3. And it reads, I am verily a man which am a Jew, born in Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, yet brought up in the city at the feet of Gamaliel, and taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, and was zealous towards God, as ye all are this day.
So he was taught the law under someone that's called Gamaliel. Now, Gamaliel was a doctor of the law. He was somebody that was just mighty as hell. He was an expert at the law, right? Let's get the book of Acts, right? Acts chapter 5 and 34.
The book of Acts, chapter 5 and 34. And it reads, Then stood there up one in the council of Pharisees, named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law, having reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space, and said unto them, Ye men of Israel, take heed to yourselves what ye intend to do as touching these men.
He was a doctor of the law. He was a doctor. You know what that meant? He made it happen. Anybody had a question, they went to him. Gamaliel was a doctor of the law. He was an expert, man. You can't just be a doctor, right? That's a high level career. It takes years and years to be a doctor. So this man studied the law for years and years and he was so good, they labeled him as a doctor of the law, right? So maybe in part 2, I'll go more into the Pharisees or whatever. Lord willing, if I don't do it in part 2, it'll be in a separate video, even if it's not part 2. And maybe I'll just do a separate outside of the life of Paul, right? So what we got right now is that Paul, he was taught the law, right? He was taught the law through Gamaliel, right? Which is a doctor of the law, someone that's an expert. So he's not going to teach anything contrary to what he was taught. And that's what people have to understand. You have heathens and people that's not Israel want to keep going to Paul letters and they don't even understand what he's saying, right? Why would he teach something contrary to what he was taught? You can't teach something that you don't know. The only thing he know is the law. He know the commandments. He know what he can and can't do. He's not going to teach anything outside of the commandments, right? Now let's get another one. Like Paul believed in the law and the prophets. So anything that the law said, the law of Moses, the first 5 books, and the prophets, he believed everything it said, right? So let's get the book of Acts, chapter 24 and verse 14.
It's the book of Acts, chapter 24, verse 14, and it reads, "But this I confess unto thee, that after the way which they call heresy, so worship I the God of my fathers, believe in all things which are written in the law and in the prophets."
He said he believed all things in the law and the prophets. He believed all things, right? So we're going to see some things that he believed in the law, right? Because we're going to get something in the law and we're going to get something in the prophets, right? So we're going to go to the law, right? The law is the whole Bible, but we're going to go into the law of Moses, right? Let's get Leviticus 25 and 44, right? Leviticus 25 and 44. We're going to see what exactly did Paul believe in. It said he believed in the law. So we're going to see some laws that he believed in. Go ahead.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 25 and 44. "Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you.
So
Of them shall ye buy."
So read that again. Read that slow because I want Israel to marinate on that right quick. Go ahead.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 25, verse 44. "Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids."
So wait a minute. Paul believed that the heathens can be servants. But I thought that he was preaching the gospel to everybody that believed. But why does it say that the heathen can be bondmen and bondmaids? But he said he believed he was taught the law, and now he believed everything in the law and the prophets. But it says here in the law that the Israelites shall have the heathens. Keep reading on that. Verse 45.
Verse 45. "Moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession. And you shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, ye shall not rule one over another with rigor."
So wait a minute. Paul believed that the heathens, the people that's not Israel, the Gentile heathens, not the Gentiles that was Israelites that didn't know they was Israelites and not practicing the traditions and the customs. Not them. We're talking about the heathens, right? The people that's not Israel at all. So wait a minute. He believed that the heathens can be, bondmen and bondmaids, and they would be our possessions, and we could take them and we can give them to our children and we can inherit them forever. That's what Paul believed. So Why do people think that Paul taught anything contrary to what he was taught? We just read that he was taught the law. Now he believed in the law, in the prophets. So why do people, it's really that simple. Why do people make things harder than what it is? Paul didn't teach anything contrary to what he was taught. Paul and Christ spoke the same thing. Paul didn't speak anything contrary to what Christ said either. I know a lot of people think that, but he didn't. Right? So let's give me 1 Corinthians 11 and 1.
It's the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 11, verse 1. And it reads, "Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Christ."
You see that? So he said, be ye followers of me because I'm a follower of Christ. So again, he's just following Christ. He's not speaking anything contrary to what Christ said. Right? And that's playing up on tables. Right? So now we got a law that Paul believed in. Let's go into the prophets and see what else did Paul believe in. Right? Let's get the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 1. Because this is what Paul believed. Right? We bring this out all the time at camp. Right? But this is what Paul believed. He believed in the law and the prophets. Isaiah, Jeremiah, all these different prophets. Right? Let's get the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 1.
It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 1. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the stranger shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave unto the house of Jacob.
Keep going.
And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors.
And that's playing upon tables. Paul believed that the Israelites, and that is a future prophecy. He believed that we're going to take all of the other nations that's not Israel, and that we're going to take them and they're going to be our slaves, and we're going to take them to Jerusalem, right? And we're going to rule over them because they ruled over us, right? They oppressed us, and and in the future, in the kingdom of heaven, we're going to oppress them, right? They're going to be servants and handmaids. That is what Paul believed, right? So we have to understand through the precepts we get understanding. Paul didn't teach, or he did not do anything contrary to what he was taught. He was taught the law. He was the expert at the law. He was taught by a man that was the expert of the law, right? So I hope, and this is part 1, Israel. I didn't want this to be too long. Look out for part 2. And first and foremost, I would like to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. I hope that this lesson was edifying through the spirit and power of the Most High. And you got some understanding on who is Paul and what he stood for. Right? Look out for part 2. And we are out. Shalom.